Week 5, Rube, how you feeling?
Feel good. Ready to go.
We're going to talk a little bit about the Eagles-Broncos. We have a bunch of questions in the inbox. Nakobe Dean returned to practice. A.J. Brown spoke to the media. We got a lot to get to today.
Busy week.
It is a busy week. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast, brought to you by Nissan. Reuben Frank and Dave Zangaro with you. Rube, let's start with A.J. Brown because kind of the big topic of conversation in the locker room on Wednesday. Will he speak? Won't he speak? He did. He was there pretty quickly after the locker room opened. Big scrum around him. I guess I can kind of paraphrase and in summary tell you what he said. He basically said he is frustrated about the offense. He let that frustration boil over. He takes accountability for it. But it sounds like he stands behind the frustration part of it. He wants the offense to be better. He wants to be a bigger part of it. He wants the team to let him kind of carry them at times, and he feels like it's going to get fixed. And he's happy to be here.
Yeah, and it was good that you asked him that. I listened to the interview. I was over with Nakobe during AJ's availability. It was a much smaller group around Nakobe.
I wonder why.
So thank you, AJ, for your timing. I listened to the whole interview on the way home. I thought he did really well, and I thought he did a really good job of. Look, I don't think he never should have tweeted what he tweeted, but I totally get his frustration. I thought he really articulated well. It's not about me wanting stats and numbers. I really feel like I can make such a big difference on this team and this offense, and I want to help this team win, and I'm not doing that. And I thought he really handled that well because it can come across like I want numbers, I want stats, and I really believe that that's not what this is about. Look, he does want that stuff, but he wants to win, and he thinks he can make a difference, and he's right. And they got to get this fixed. I thought he had the perfect tone and explained himself really well.
I thought his analysis of the offense was on point because he said, last year the passing offense wasn't good, and I'm paraphrasing all this, obviously. Last year the passing offense wasn't good, but we were running the ball so well that it didn't really matter. This year we're not running the ball well, and our passing offense still kind of stinks. So he's looking at this saying, if we don't have either of these elements of the offense clicking, we might be in trouble here when we face better teams. And look, they've already faced 4 really good teams, or a couple of really good teams.
Yeah, three,
and the Cowboys. But I think his point is a valid one. And last year, the passing comment about the offense didn't come from AJ until December because of how effective the run game was. I think it popped up earlier this year because the run game isn't good, and he's looking at this thinking, we got to fix this now before it really does become a bigger issue.
And he's right. They are 4-0, but hey, maybe they'll keep winning without an offense. And he did allude to, like, what did he say? Special teams and defense have been low-key carrying us, which is true.
I don't know how low-key it's been.
Yeah. But that's what he said. But yeah, the defense, I think, has been very good. Special teams has made a lot of big plays. So
this is really the second year of that, the defense carrying them.
Yeah.
Like the offense was better last year than it has been through 4 games this year. The defense was the better unit of the two. And we didn't expect that last year. We certainly didn't expect it again this year, but here we are.
Yeah, and the defense hasn't been quite as good as last year, but they also didn't start out super hot last year, and I think they're going to get a lot better.
They're better through 4 games than they were through 4 games last year. That's for sure.
Yeah, and offense is worse, so they have to get it fixed. I don't see them sustaining. It's great that they've won these close games. I just don't see it continuing if they don't. Look, they're going to beat some teams, but I don't see them, for instance, winning 10 games in a row like they did last year. Like they have up till now, if they don't get this thing fixed. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they can win with smoke and mirrors and 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, and I think his point about, wanting to be the guy that's featured is, he's really good. And it's not enough just to look at the targets, because we looked at the targets in that game, and there were 9 in the stat sheet, but so many of those were like nothing targets that, there weren't real opportunities for him to catch the football.
Right.
The one thing, that I thought for the most part, he spoke for about 7.5 minutes. It wasn't super long, but he came out with he started with a statement saying he let his frustration boil over. And the one part of the statement, he said, my tweet, which was the Bible quote, wasn't directed at anyone specifically, which that's the one part of what he said that I have a hard time buying, because I don't think you send that tweet out if it's not directed at someone specifically. But I also understand from his perspective why he can't say who it was directed toward.
Yeah. I mean, I have theory. I mean,
yeah, well, we've talked about it. That there aren't many options.
No, there's only a couple.
There's three.
Yeah. We asked Jalen, were you in there for Jalen?
No.
Remember, did you listen to it?
I did.
He was asked about his relationship with AJ and gave kind of a lukewarm, vague response that was somewhat concerning.
But it's also sometimes Jalen's a little aloof.
Yeah.
Especially when there are big questions about something. Like sometimes he doesn't like to feed into it. So you do have to like take some of that aloofness with a grain of salt sometimes.
True. That's true. But yeah, there's something off somewhere.
Sure.
Between those four people.
And it's not like this is a new issue.
Yeah.
You know, like we talked about this stuff last year and they won a Super Bowl. So it's possible that it all gets swept under the rug and they figure it out. Now, the timing of it is interesting to me because all this kind of came to a head in December of last year. There wasn't a whole lot of calendar left before the playoffs and they had to fix it quickly. Does the timing of this almost leave open the possibility that it happens again before they get to the playoffs?
Sure. I mean, I don't think it would surprise anybody. It's who AJ is. And, you know, along with the immense talent and playmaking ability, you get a guy that wears his heart on his sleeve. And, you know, you'd rather have the whole package than none of it. And it's just something that, you know, Nick, I think, has done a good job navigating through it. And he's a wide receiver. You know, at least he hasn't done any sit-ups in the driveway.
Not quite.
In Moorestown.
He it's funny though, because like he finally publicly voiced his frustration with us on Wednesday. He was wearing that frustration on the tape. Like it's there. You can see it.
Sure.
I mean, he's a frustrated player.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, I'm not a body language expert, but you can see it. You know what I mean? Like it's there for everyone to see. And it's something that, you know, do you like it? No. But in a way, I wonder if AJ's talked about before, you know, being okay as the person who speaks up and being okay with being, I think he said the villain before. I don't think it goes to that level, but being the guy who will start a difficult conversation, and maybe the way he goes about it isn't always great, but if he has a point, it's possible it leads to a positive change.
Yeah. And we're also at the point where going into week 5 or game 5, last year, game 5 was week 6, but we're going into the point where they did figure some things out last year. And Nick even alluded to that. I guess I was on Monday, just that, you know, we're at the same point where things started to get a lot better. Come to that. Browns game wasn't great, but then after that, they really kind of hit their stride on offense. So it's definitely on his mind that this is when we fixed some things last year. So it'll be interesting to see. And, you know, when you see AJ in that second half against the Rams, and it's like, why can't they do this? Like,
and he even talked about that specifically. He brought up his big half, but it wasn't just like, hey, I caught all these passes, I got all these yards. It was also, hey, did you see that after I made one catch, the safety slid my way and Dallas Goedert caught a ball up the seam? So like he sees it not just as, you know, him getting the football helps the team, but he sees him getting the football a few times opens up for other people. And that's true. Like the better he is, the more coverages are going to shift to stopping him. And it's going to leave advantageous matchups for his other teammates.
And it should help the running game eventually, in theory.
In theory, yeah, because last year, you know, when we've talked about this on a broader scale, and this is very basic level, but basically last year, the run game opened up the pass. The year before, well, really 2022, when the offense was good, the pass opened up the run. And it can work both ways. And We've talked about all those heavy boxes and the Eagles kind of running their head into a brick wall. If you're able to spread the defense out a little bit, you can lighten up some of those boxes, and then theoretically it becomes easier to run the football, especially when your offensive line hasn't been as good as we're accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, that's all fair.
Anything else about AJ that really stood out to you? I give him credit for speaking publicly. Obviously, you don't want to see your star receiver putting out cryptic tweets and playing this whole game.
How many times do you use the word cryptic?
A lot. It's the right word for it.
Yeah.
It is. It created some drama. And this is, it's funny too. Like last year, I think back to the Brandon Graham on the radio talking about Jalen and AJ, and somehow the Eagles spun it to like an us versus them public perception versus the media. And it's like, unforced error. And this one was an unforced error too. They are creating the drama. Now, are people running with it? Sure. Are people like coming up with trade scenarios for AJ Brown during the season? Like, yes, that's happening. I think, if you're listening to this podcast, or you're more selective about, you're having a different view of the reality of it all. And I think that's a wise decision if you're a consumer, but I understand the frustration in that, but these are unforced errors by some of the players on the football team.
Yeah. I appreciate the tennis metaphor.
You a big tennis guy?
Yeah.
I've only ever seen one tennis match in person.
Really?
I got free tickets to go see a match on clay when I lived in Texas. That's fun.
You remember who played?
No, I don't.
There used to be a big tournament at the Spectrum called the Abel US Pro Indoor, and I used to cover it every year. So I actually saw Pete Sampras' first professional match, which he won. And, all those, we saw Borg play and McEnroe and Connors. And then, by the end, it was, more recent guys, obviously. Do you know the last American to win a Grand Slam was Andy Roddick at the U.S. Open, like 12 years ago? Okay.
Remember there was like some old-timer tournament here at the Xfinity Mobile Arena?
But it probably didn't have that name
It did not. It was probably, I don't know what it was.
It was like a seniors tour thing.
No, it wasn't even seniors because like Sampras wasn't that old, but it was like Sampras versus Agassi. And I like poked my head out there because that was pretty cool.
I remember when they played at the Spectrum and Agassi was a young like rock star with all the hair and everything. And I remember standing in the tunnel, like I was hiding in the tunnel behind whoever he was playing, just watching him serve. And like, this is not the game that I play. Yeah. Like that ball is coming off his racket and it's like, I don't know how you return it. The guy he was playing is returning him, but it's a great sport to watch live. Has there
ever been an athlete to go from such iconic hair to no hair?
Good question. I'm sure we'll get some emails on that one, but yeah, he's pretty bald now. Pretty bald.
Yeah, definitely bald.
Is he married to Steffi Graf, maybe?
I don't know.
I think that might have happened.
Want to move on from tennis talk?
Jimmy Connors, his racket that he used was made in Bordentown. And when I was at Burlington, I wanted to do a story on it. I actually went down to Atlantic City because he was playing an exhibition against McEnroe, actually. And I talked to him about the racket for like 10 minutes. And then I called the company I wanted to get some information about the racket. And they never called me back, so I never did the story. I still have the quotes, my notebook here.
You would have that and not your keys.
True. I haven't lost my keys in a while.
That's tempting fate.
What day's today?
All right, let's move on.
Matchups. Or no, Nakobe. Yeah, I'm sorry.
This is why I do that.
Yeah. Just trying to keep you in line here.
Yeah, thanks. Nakobe Dean back at practice. They opened his practice window. We talked about this on Tuesday, that it would happen either this week or next. It happened this week, which is encouraging. It doesn't mean he's going to play on Sunday, although the Eagles do have a spot open on their 53-man roster. Just a good thing to see Nakobe Dean back at practice. Means a lot to the spirit of this football team.
Yeah. And I was actually talked to Zach Bond after I talked to Nakobe, and he said like everybody was just so happy for him. Everybody was smiling. And he said Nakobe was like the first guy lining up for every drill. he was like, let me run scout team. Let me do this. Let me do that. He wanted to be in every drill. Nakobe said he's been healthy for a while. Obviously, they couldn't open his window until after the fourth game. He said he's had Wednesday after the Broncos game circled on his calendar since the spring when they told him he was going to start out on PUP. So he's had yesterday kind of planning for it for quite a while, out for 8.5 months. Just such a positive guy. You love his energy. You love his spirit. And he's such a good player. And, you look at his numbers from last year, and they're not far off. Like, he's not Zach Bond, but his numbers are not far off. 3 sacks, interception, 9 tackles for loss, 118 tackles, a forced fumble. I mean, he was just such a playmaker last year. What do they do with him? Vic wouldn't talk about it on Tuesday. I got to think there's some role on defense for him, maybe not immediately. Obviously, you're not going to take Jahad Campbell off the field. He's playing great. And you're not going to take Zach Bond off the field. Vic loves Nakobe. Really, really likes Nakobe, likes the way he plays. I got to think he's going to find a role for him. Might not be a big one, but I think we'll see him do something. And the obvious thing is, have one of those other 2 guys line up at the edge. Vic doesn't seem to, at least from what he tells us, doesn't seem to be considering that. But that would make a lot of sense.
Every time we've asked him about Jahad Campbell as an edge player, he kind of pushes back. And that was from the moment they drafted him, when Howie Roseman came out and is talking about Micah Parsons and is bringing up all the pass rush ability that Campbell has. It was, the first time we talked to Vic Fangio about it, he threw some cold water on that mighty quickly. And
has consistently since.
Yeah. So, but I do think that is the most obvious answer to this. And I don't think it'll be a huge role if he plays on defense, but I don't know. I think there's a world where they walk out with Nakobe, Zach Bond, and Jahad Campbell on the field together. And then, one of those 2, whether it's Bond or Campbell, ends up walking on like down the line and kind of lines up as an overhang. And we've seen that with the 2 of them on the field, right?
Yeah.
I think it's possible, especially on early downs, we could see it. Or I don't know, maybe not early downs, because you wouldn't think that Bond or Campbell are going to give you the best run stuff ability on the edge. But yeah, I think there's a world where Nakobe sees a little bit of time, but honestly, like, I think he's going to have to be a backup for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. And
he was asked about that, right?
Yeah. He said, when they put me out there, I'll do my best, but I only worry about things I can control. And right now it's just been getting healthy and being available. And I am, and whatever they ask me to do. And coming from Georgia, we talked about this with Jalen and Jordan, they preach special teams. Starters play special teams. I remember talking to Nakobe the first Super Bowl, or I guess the
2022.
80, 04, 17, the 4th Super Bowl. And just saying, just him talking about how much he loves playing special teams and how much he enjoyed that role on that team because he wasn't playing defense. And he's a really good special teamer, especially if he's not playing defense. I mean, if he's got to put everything into that, and I think that's where he'll start. But the other thing is, like, Vic doesn't consider, like what you just described, Zach Bond or Jahad walking up. He doesn't consider that lining up on the edge. Like he considered that's where you are. That's your position. So I think there will be room for that. And I think we'll see that. Not sure if Nakobe's going to play Sunday against Denver. Usually they give the guys a week to practice and then the second game.
And it's not even like he had a training camp. Whereas like a lot of times the guy is on IR, he at least went through a training camp. He had spring, like Nakobe didn't have spring or training camp.
Right.
So this is like, he's been running, but he hasn't really done football stuff in a long time.
Yeah. Since that Packers game, which was January 7th, something like that. But yeah, I love his attitude. I love his positivity. And I know whatever role he does have, he'll do his best at it, and he'll probably do it really well.
What's the value of keeping him right now? So this is something that, I don't know how realistic it would be, but he is in a contract year. He's someone who has proven to be a starter caliber player in this league. On one hand, like maybe there's a way to move him where he ends up in a better position for himself. On the other hand, we saw how important depth is last year. When he went down, they needed a backup to step up, and it was Oren Burks. Like, how do you weigh those things?
Oren Burks played great in the postseason. Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, Zach Bond's 29, so do you take that into account? I mean, he's not really 29 in football years.
Yeah, he hasn't played a ton.
So I don't think you do. I don't think,
and you just signed him. So
yeah, I don't think, considering Nakobe's injuries, and he had the foot before the.
And to be clear, like, I don't know if he's going to be able to prove to the rest of the league that he's healthy if he's not playing.
Yeah, so I don't think there's going to be a ton of money out there for him. I think this might be the best place for him, just because his relationship with Vic and he's comfortable here.
Oh, you think after this year, this is still the best place for him?
I just don't know if there's going to be a ton of money for him.
Okay.
So all things being equal, well,
I guess I would think he'd want a chance to be a starter somewhere after this year. I was talking about a potential trade during the season.
Oh, what's the value of keeping him now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't, again, I'd say the same thing. I'm not sure how much value he has. The trade deadline is what week? When's the trade deadline?
It's normally like late October or early November.
Yeah, it's soon. It's like in the next month. Can he prove he's that kind of player that quickly?
He might not have the opportunity
to get you picks,
and also, like,
just don't see it.
We saw, like, last year was, if God forbid one of those guys gets hurt in front of him and you trade him away, like, all of a sudden that is like a huge problem.
Yeah. So I don't see that happening. I don't see any scenario where that.
I brought it up because I have been asked about,
and plus he had the foot before this, so there's like questions about his ability to stay healthy. Although he never got hurt in college, I think his value is so much more being here than anything you're going to get for him.
Probably,
yeah.
So he was technically limited on the injury report Wednesday with that knee injury. Jalen Carter with the shoulder, Adoree Jackson with the groin, Lane Johnson with the shoulder, also all limited. The only guy who did not practice on the 53-man roster on Wednesday was Dallas Goedert with the knee. So it is something to monitor with Goddard. He was in the locker room after practice. Probably a good sign. Spoke to reporters. Probably a good sign. But he had a knee injury that he missed week 2. And you wonder if this is something that's going to linger the rest of the season.
Yeah. And with all these guys, that bye week is looming out there in about a month. I'm sure they're all like just.
That offensive line could certainly use a bye week.
Yeah. Maybe a couple of them. Yeah, they're all banged up, other than maybe Jordan. But I guess Steen's Lane.
Yeah, Steen.
I'm not sure Cam's hurt. I don't know what's going on with Cam. I don't think he's not playing like he did last year.
No.
I'm not sure why that is. But yeah, anyway, Dallas is certainly, he's so valuable to this team, especially when you're trying to figure things out on offense. So
and you got Grant Calcaterra out there trying to block.
It's not a pretty sight.
What are they doing? Why do they keep doing that? Like, they're smarter than me. I get that. They put Grant Calcaterra in a lot of tough spots.
They do.
You can't block. That's okay. A lot of tight ends you can't block.
Yeah.
But stop asking them to do it.
Zach Ertz wasn't great. Wasn't
it's crazy to me. Like, they keep trying it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't get that either. But they need Goddard.
They do. The only other thing I wanted to talk about, Quinyon Mitchell got named NFC Defensive Player of the Week. Kind of a rare Defensive Player of the Week without an interception for a cornerback, but he was so good against the Bucs.
I was really surprised he got that. I thought he played to that level, but
and sometimes those Player of the Weeks are just so dependent on what happens elsewhere. Right. But he was deserving.
Yeah, nobody returned two fumble and an interception, 70 yards this week. He was so good in that game, and I was surprised to see it, but happy for him because he deserved it. And he's a guy. I don't know if you probably looked up the last corner to win that without a pick. Did you?
I didn't. No.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I might have to look that up.
Okay.
He's playing at such a high level.
I didn't look it up because it's nice to get an award, but it's so dependent on everything else that happens.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't really mean that his week was better than another corner's week in 2022. It's just that there wasn't another guy who had a big week.
Yeah. So, nobody had like 3 sacks or anything. But, yeah.
But he was fantastic.
He was so
and,
good.
and Vic Fangio said that was the best game Quignon's played. I agree with that. I thought he was so sticky, had 5 pass breakups because they finally threw the ball his way, which was surprising to everyone in the stadium. But he was on Emeka Egbuka all game. And I actually saw an interview with Egbuka, and he was asked about some of the grabbiness from Quignon. And I give Egbuka credit as a rookie for saying, he basically said, they're not calling it. It's not a penalty. I gotta play within whatever they're calling. And I think there's an art to that as a cornerback, knowing what you're going to get away with.
No doubt about it. Yeah. Great matchup.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying.
He's going to be a hell of a player.
He's already really good.
Yeah. Buckeyes keep coming up with these guys.
They really do. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I wanted to talk about in the first half of the show. Let's take a break. We have matchups and then a bunch of questions to get to when we come back.
I can't wait. You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and NissanUSA.com today.
We are back on the Eagle Eye podcast. The Eagles host the Broncos on Sunday, 1 p.m. Eagles are 4-0, Broncos 2-2. Seen the line for this game around 3.5, 4.5 points. Surprisingly small line there.
Yeah, and I was trying to figure out why that might be. And I'm like the last guy to ask about betting stuff, but I just wonder if the lackluster offense is part of the reason. If that affects.
Yeah. I mean, the Eagles are 4-0 and their point differential is 20, so it's not that crazy, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, until they win a game decisively, why would you make the line? I mean, the Broncos are coming off a short week, East Coast travel, so that's not easy.
No,
that's got to be, I would think, worth a point or two, but I don't know.
Okay, let's get into the matchups in this game. We'll start off with the Broncos defense because that is a pretty good unit. We'll start off with the edges because Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson will have their hands full in this game. Nick Bonito having one of the better seasons for any defensive player in the league right now. And then Jonathan Cooper.
4.5 sacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jonathan Cooper on the other side has been playing really well. It's funny. I wanted to watch some Bonito because I was like, is he really playing that well? And the more I watched Bonito, the more I was like, whoa, Cooper on the other side has juice.
Yeah, he's got 2.5 sacks of his own. So those two guys have 7. Eagles starting edges have a half. Mm-hmm. They get after the quarterback. I think they have 15 sacks as a team, which I believe is the most in the league. I guess I could look it up instead of just guessing. They have 15 sacks. That's the most in the league. They're a tough team to throw against. Their defense is legit.
It's a good defense. The quick pressures from these edges is what stands out. Their get-off times, really fast. So Cooper is 0.69 seconds. Bonito's 0.72. Jalix Hunt is the quickest get-off of the Eagles' edges. He's 0.85. So, that is a significant difference. And get-off is something the Eagles really try to stress. So to see those guys on the edge giving teams headaches is exciting. But this is, as Nick Sirianni said on Wednesday, this is good on good because the Eagles have 2 of the better tackles in the league. Yeah,
and you just hope Lane Johnson's healthy and can be Lane Johnson out there because they're going to need him. And you can't. I mean, he's left the last 2 games, the Rams game really early. They need him out there.
Yeah. And sometimes those quicker edge rushers are the ones we've seen give Mailata a little bit of trouble just because he's so big. Sometimes they're able to get around him. So that's something I'll be watching in this game.
Yeah.
Okay. We talked about A.J. Brown's frustration already. Well, he has the best cornerback in the world lining up against him this week.
Patrick Surtain, however you wish to say it.
Surtain.
He's been doing it at a high level for so long. And you just look, I mean, if you're not getting the ball against pedestrian corners, I mean, this is going to be a real challenge for Jalen, for KP, for the whole offense, and certainly for AJ. I mean, he's really good.
Yeah, Defensive Player of the Year last season. Hard for a defensive back to win that award. He had 4 interceptions too, so it wasn't like he had some undeniable productive season. He was just so freaking good. And when we talk about Quinyon Mitchell, I've always talked about him in terms of, can he be that player? And I don't think it's crazy to think that he could eventually rise to the level of being elite. And there's no one more elite in this league right now at that position than Patrick Surtain.
He was at Bama with Jalen.
Mm-hmm.
So they know each other real well.
They do. And I remember when Devontae came to the league, that was, he talked about his battles against Surtain day in and day out and how much better it made him. And I understand why when you watch him in this league.
I think Nick Bonito was at Oklahoma with Jalen.
Do they overlap?
I think they did.
Okay.
Well, he was drafted in 22, so I would think, unless he transferred in, which he did not. He was there his whole career.
I have some nerd stats if you want them on Surtain. Next gen stats. He's forced tight window throws 58.8% of the targets that go his way. Like, he is so outrageously sticky in coverage. Average target separation is 1.3 yards. So we know how well Quinyon Mitchell has been playing. Those numbers for Mitchell are 44.4% and 1.6 yards. So, like, we see how well Quinyon's playing, and then you look at Surtain's numbers and you go, holy cow.
One thing about Surtain is that when he has the ball in his hands, like he's averaged like almost 20 yards per return in his career.
Mm.
So it's not just that he's picking them off. He's getting yards after the catch.
Yeah. And that's obviously the one element of Quinyon's game that's missing is the interceptions, the ball skills. We saw him pick off 2 in the playoffs. He has not had one yet in the regular season.
Which is crazy to me, because he's played 20 games now. They're going to come. I keep saying that. Maybe want to come this week, because I think Bo Nix will put it up for grabs a little bit.
Yeah.
Both those guys. Cooper doesn't have any in the regular season either. I think he had one in the playoffs. I seem to remember.
Did he have one?
Yeah, I think it was in the Super Bowl. But
did he return it all right?
I think he scored.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I think he scored. Yeah, he did.
My last matchup for the Eagles offense is another fun one, because the Broncos have the best red zone defense in the NFL. The Eagles have the best red zone offense. So something's got to give in this game.
Well, it doesn't have to give if the Eagles don't get into the red zone.
I would hope they get into the red zone.
Well, they might be a bunch of 25-yard touchdowns, but yeah.
Seems unlikely.
It does. That's a fun matchup. And as bad as the Eagles offense has been, as shaky and inconsistent, when they're inside the 20 and especially inside the 5, you can't stop them. So
that's where this game could be won. You have the number 1 red zone defense in the NFL in the Broncos, and the number 3 red zone defense with the Eagles. Like, if one of these teams takes advantage of those situations, they're probably going to win the game.
Eagles' red zone defense has been so good. They've been good on 4th down. They're getting takeaways in the deep red zone, and they're tough to score on down there, and that's huge, because they're giving up some yards.
Yeah, 376 to the Bucs, which is
a lot of yards.
Which is why we don't just look at the yards, because you look at those numbers and you think, oh man, what a rough game for the defense. No, I thought they had their best game of the year.
Interesting. Yeah, that one or the Chiefs. But yeah, it's it can bail you out of a lot of situations. They just have so many playmakers on defense who are so good in the red zone. You feel like somebody's going to make a play.
You do get that confidence from them.
You do.
I think they feel it too.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the 4th and 2. They're not going to get all of them, but it feels like, man, someone's going to make a play here.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt in the Bucs game. And it was like the first time I think I felt about the defense similarly to how I felt about it last year. I was like, someone's going to make a play.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really believe that. I don't have any basis in fact for this, but I mean, I think in yards they're like ranked 18th right now.
Let's screw the fact. Let's go vibes.
I'm going to guess by the end of the year they'll be in the top 5. And they face some good quarterbacks too.
They do.
They face 4 all four quarterbacks they faced are multiple Pro Bowl guys. They've probably each been in.
All the consternation about like the moving pieces, the new starters, but they have good players.
You know, what's an interesting stat is the Eagles are number one in the NFL in opposing completion percentage. Quarterbacks only completing like 57% of their passes. In this era, that's really low.
Mm-hmm.
That's really low. And I think that speaks in large part to the cornerback play.
Yeah.
I mean, they knock down passes. The pressure's been okay, but man, they're just tough to throw on.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, let's get to we're already talking about the Eagles defense, but Quinyon Mitchell against Cortland Sutton. He's their best receiver for sure, and I would think Quinyon is going to flip side to side on him in this game.
You would think so. Anytime you see there's a big gap between 1 and 2. Sutton's been around a while. He's had a couple 1,000-yard seasons. He's actually off to one, maybe his best start. He's got over 300 yards, I believe, already. 266. But if you include his rushing yards, he has 266. No, he's averaging 15 yards a catch. He gets in the end zone. He's got 3 touchdowns. He's a real good player.
Yeah, since the start of 2023, he's 4th in the NFL in touchdown catches. The only players with more: Monroe St. Brown, Jamar Chase, and Mike Evans.
A.J. Brown not on that list. He probably was a month ago. But, yeah.
So he's a red zone target, and we talk about red zone defense. Stop him in the red zone, you probably stop the Broncos in the red zone.
True.
J.K. Dobbins off to a nice start in his year.
On pace for almost 1,400 yards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably going to slow that pace at some point, but he's a good player. The Broncos line's blocking well for him, and the Eagles run defense has been up and down a little bit.
It's been shaky. I think a lot of that is some of the injuries up front. Jalen Carter hasn't really been the force that he was last year. I don't think he's played poorly, but that shoulder's certainly bothering him. They've allowed over 100 yards in all 4 games. A little concerning.
Yeah, they haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher yet.
Right.
Kyron Williams had 94 against them. But yeah, it's you come in every game trying to stop the run, and this is a pretty good run attack.
Yeah, I think he's at 5.7 per carry. Yeah, he's a good player.
Last one I have on my list is Vic Fangio against Bo Nix. You love to see Vic against young quarterbacks, how he's able to manipulate them a little bit. And Nix has been solid. They've had their starter, had a good rookie season, is playing fairly well this year too.
Yeah.
Doesn't have like a ton of great skill around him, but he makes it work.
Yeah. He's solid. He'll turn it over. I think the Eagles get a couple picks off him. What's he thrown, 4 or 5 so far this year?
Yeah, 4 picks.
4 picks. The way Quinyon is playing, I mean, he's going to get an interception, or he might get 2 Sunday off Nix. There's a bold prediction or bold statement. I love the matchup between Vic and young quarterbacks. I just think that's, and they're going to they're facing a few of them coming up.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly who's going to start for the Vikings, either be a young quarterback or an old quarterback. But I like the matchup with either one and Vic. But
you have Jackson Dart, of course.
Jackson Dart twice. Assuming he's still starting by the second one. We might see Russell by then. But yeah, I think it's such a great matchup for the Eagles to have this mad scientist defensive coordinator against a young quarterback. That's a tough matchup. My favorite
PFF stat at least, turnover worthy plays.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. He's up there, Bo Nix. He'll put the ball in harm's way. And we talked about that with Baker last week, even though the interceptions weren't there. It was something we brought up. Sure enough, big moment. Ball gets tipped, but what the heck's he doing? He throws the ball and Jahad Campbell picks it off. So I think there's a chance for a high leverage situation and an interception from Bo Nix in this game.
I could see that.
The other thing, like while we're talking about Vic, man, I've enjoyed watching a blitzing Vic Fangio defense. And it shows you like good coaches, they'll do what they need to do. They're not so married to the way they want to play. They're willing to know their personnel and change it up a little bit. And that's what he's done this year so far.
Yeah, I thought it was a really revealing comment that he made after the Chiefs game. He was asked why he blitzed so much more in the Chiefs game, the Week 2 Chiefs game, than the Super Bowl. He said, "I didn't have to in the Super Bowl. I had Josh Sweat and BG. I had to in this game. They're blitzing, I think, 29% of the time. Last year was 20%. I believe are the numbers. That's a significant difference. And until they figure things out with the pass rush, I think you're going to continue to see it. And when you have that much faith in your corners, manning up, you're comfortable doing it.
Yeah, and sometimes there were a few times in the Tampa game where, and this is more anecdotal, there just wasn't the pressure, and Baker completes a pass, and you go, yeah, there were 7 seconds. You're not going to cover for 7 seconds most of the time.
Yeah.
So I think he's had a good feel for not just when to ratchet up the pressure with blitzes, but how to deploy them. And he has players who can pull it off, and it's been fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll see. I think against a young quarterback, I could see him doing it even a little more.
Yeah, even if they're not like real blitzes and they're kind of sim pressures where you'll send someone and drop an edge player into coverage. Like I think those are the types of things that can throw off a young player when he doesn't know where it's coming from and he doesn't have a clear picture. And you have guys on the edge who are like, okay, drop him back.
Yeah, that was the old 46 defense that Buddy ran. He would drop Reggie White and Clyde Simmons back in coverage.
See that play a couple weeks ago? Josh Sweat was like 35 yards downfield in coverage. I
saw that.
And they catch a ball on him, and the sideline for the other team's like giving him crap. It's like, he's 30 yards downfield.
Yeah. So
he shouldn't be in the frame.
No. It's pretty good coverage by Josh.
It was
30 yards down the field. He's having a good year. He's got 3 sacks for Jonathan Gannon.
Okay. Questions?
Yeah.
We have a bunch of them, so we will hop into those. I'll put the font on the screen, eagle-eyed NBCUni.com. QR code is on the screen. We'll leave it up there. If you have a question for us, scan that, send it in to us. We'll start off today with Tiffany. Hey, guys. I'm going to start by saying...
Was there a singer named Tiffany? She did a cover version of I Think We're Alone Now, originally recorded by Tommy James and the Shondells. I think she had a big hit with it. Tiffany.
Her name was just Tiffany?
Yeah, she just went by Tiffany. I don't
think you can go by just like a normal name.
Well, she did. I didn't know. Tiffany. Her real name was Tiffany Darwish.
That checks out.
Known mononymously as Tiffany, an American pop singer. Her 1987 cover of the Tommy James and the Shondells song, I Think We're Alone Now, spent 2 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Yeah.
I think we're alone now in this podcast. Everyone else is.
That's quite possible.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Tommy James song? You have a favorite Tommy James and the Shondells song?
No.
Like Dizzy, maybe? All right.
I said
no, that was Tommy Rowe.
I said like a pretty normal name, and you're just off here.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, what does Tiffany have to ask us? Can you get to it, please? Stop stalling.
I'm going to start by saying the Eagles won because I turned off my TV.
Oh.
The same thing happened last week. My question is, and maybe it's just me, but does the O-line look sloppy and aren't blocking as well as usual? I know we had some players get hurt, but that seems to be the case with our starters. I really think Landon came back too soon from his injury, or he's just not the same. Glad we didn't have to do Dave's positivity corner, but I feel it's coming soon.
Ooh. She sees an imminent Dave's positivity corner.
Which is like some of the new listeners to this podcast have never experienced one.
We haven't done one. We've done one in the last.
Dave's positivity corner pops up when the Eagles lose a football game, and we don't want to end the podcast being negative. We might have to start doing it for some of these wins.
Yeah, we've had one positivity corner in their last 21 games. I think she makes some good points, and we've talked about this. The O-line is not the same O-line, and I don't think Landon's totally healthy. I'm not sure another couple of weeks would have made a big difference. Tyler Steen's not as good as Mekhi Becton. We know Lane's come out of the last 2 games very early in the Rams game. I don't think Matt Pryor's played well at guard or tackle when he's had to play. And Cam Jurgens hasn't been as good. So I think Jordan Mailata's been terrific, but the other four, there's issues there.
You could make a case it's the biggest concern with this team right now because it might be the underlying issue to the other problems on offense.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
We've talked about like the run game's not there. Well, why is the run game not there? Well, because the offensive line isn't blocking up things the way they were. And I think some of it's probably scheme. But that hasn't changed, right? Like Jeff Stoutland is still designing the run game. Those things should still be there. What I think has changed is the level of play, and it is concerning because I don't think the Eagles have adjusted to that reality yet. I think they are still designing and calling this offense like they have an elite offensive line, and right now that might not be the case.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think this team depends on their O-line like more than anybody, just the way they run their offense. And without this O-line being at their best, it just doesn't work. And that's what we're seeing.
Next one from John. Gentlemen, thanks for your in-depth analysis of the Eagles. Question number 1. It seems like the refs were letting the defensive backs play aggressively, and had it gone the other way with calling it more closely, it would have bitten both Q and Keeley. Thoughts?
I thought they called it evenly, and that's all. That's all I want.
Exactly.
You just don't want, that's DPI and that's not. So they were consistent. I thought corners from both teams got away with stuff, so I was fine with it.
Did Q yeah, absolutely. There's those clips of him pulling the undershirt of Ibuka as he's running away from him, but as part of playing defensive back in this league, and the Eagles will tell you, like any team will tell you, there's a lot of scout work that goes into knowing the referees, particularly what they like to call, what they'll let go. And I think that's like the next level of evolution as a player when you start to look into all those things and figure out what you're able to do and what you're not.
Yeah, no doubt.
Second question from John. Do you think Howie has painted himself into a corner with not drafting offensive linemen higher in recent drafts based on the shortage of depth? You can't keep hoping reclamation projects will pan out.
Well, I guess you can say that, but then who do you not want on the team that he did draft? Like, he's drafted really well, and the focus has been on defense. They have a really good defense and a lot of really good players that they drafted. So, yeah, he could have drafted an offensive lineman, but at what expense?
And I don't think it was he didn't draft the offensive lineman because he didn't want to.
Right.
I think it's the way it fell.
Yeah.
I think in each of the last 2 years, if you were to tell Howie you don't come out of these drafts with a day 1 or 2 offensive lineman, he probably wouldn't believe you. Like I think there was a plan to do it, and the board just didn't fall the way they needed it to.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Okay. From Larry, Dave and Rube. I will keep this short because then maybe you'll read it. Ding, ding, ding.
There you go.
I enjoy Rube's stats as much as he enjoys researching them. So here it goes.
My favorite thing to do.
Was Braden Mann's minus 34-yard carry today the only carry of his career? If yes, is his negative 34.0 yards per carry average the lowest of all time? Thanks. As always, can't wait until the next podcast.
Yeah, I had a bunch of Braden Mann rushing stats in my stats column this week. It's tied for the shortest, I guess you would say, or the biggest loss on a running play. 3 guys have had a 34-yard exactly loss on an intentional safety. The other 2 one was a receiver and one was a running back, so their career average is higher than minus 34. Sure. Who was the guy? Adrian Killens? No longer has the lowest. Oh,
yeah, the speedy guy the Eagles had.
No longer has the lowest average in Eagles history. I think he had like a 12-yard loss.
He's off the hook,
on his only carry. So Braden, So it's weird because
this is the second carry of his career.
Is it?
Braden Mann.
Yeah. So
he had a 4-yarder in 2021.
4 yards, so he's minus 15.
It's good math out of you.
Interesting thing is, up until up through the 70s, sacks counted as rushing losses for quarterbacks. So you would have like Milt Plum from Woodbury, New Jersey, had a game where he had
of course, yeah,
where he had 40. He lost 40 rushing yards in a game. So people have lost more, but the rules were different back then. But it was interesting to hear Nick talk. I think I probably asked too many questions about it. I guess it was on Monday or Wednesday. I don't remember, but like he said, they practiced that play and that Braden Mann there were 6 seconds left and he kind of knows what he has to do in those seconds to run the clock out.
Yeah. No, I was fascinated by the take safety too. I talked to Braden after the game about it.
Yeah.
And he said that was right on the time border for them if they're going to do it or not. 6 seconds.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, it would have to do with where you're on the field too.
Sure.
I was surprised he didn't start running across the end zone. He just kind of ran out of the end zone. But you also got to be really careful with the football. And a punter's not used to running with the football. So like a guy strips you, that's a touchdown. You're in big trouble.
Might be a tie game.
Yeah. So a lot goes into it. And I'm fascinated by any play that you just rarely see is really interesting to me.
And a play that you prepare years for a play that pops up on a random Sunday.
Yeah.
That's fun to me.
Yeah.
Because there's so much and it makes you think how much preparation goes into plays that we never see.
Right.
Quite a bit. Even that Dallas Goedert play, the first touchdown I think they were talking about, that's been in the playbook for 4 years. And it just happened that it was up this week. They got in a situation where they wanted to use it and they used it, but that's why there's always some excitement about a play like that when it finally gets called. All right, next one from Paul. Do you think Nick's friendship with Kevin Patullo keeps him from being more forceful and telling him to be more innovative with his play calls? Nick didn't have such a relationship with Kellen, who was kind of forced on Nick. We saw Nick instruct Kellen to call the dagger play in the Super Bowl. Nick says it's his offense, so I hold him responsible for making Patullo abandon this stale approach. Surely, Nick can see the play calling is not living up to the standard. Your thoughts?
Andy Reid said he never hired his friends because he didn't want to have to fire his friends. He would just hire coaches that he heard good things about. But
you think when he said that, a few of his coaches were like, "Oh,
I thought I was friends with him." Well, most of them he'd never met. When his original staff that all became head coaches. But we don't know how hard Nick is on Kevin Patullo either. It's not something you would see in public. I don't think. If Nick really feels like Kevin Patullo's doing a poor job, I don't think they've known each other a long time. They've worked together a long time, but I don't think that would stop him from making a change if he really felt that was best for the team.
I agree with you. I think at times Nick kind of skates in terms of public blame because Kevin Patullo is a new coordinator and he deserves blame. Don't get me wrong. I think play calling hasn't been great. I think a lot of the offensive structure and scheme hasn't been great, but a lot of these problems predate him being the offensive coordinator. So it's okay, well, if there are common themes in the struggles offensively, let's look at the common denominators, and it's the quarterback and the head coach, right?
Yeah.
So I think we saw in 2023, Brian Johnson ended up kind of becoming a scapegoat for that failure. And was he great? No. But I also, I think that it might have been a little unfair to put it all on him. I think it might be a little unfair to be putting it all on Patullo now. And that's not saying it's been good. It's been bad. And he deserves blame for it. But parsing out that blame is tough.
It is. And there's no way to really divvy it up without being in the meeting rooms and knowing exactly what's going on. But I don't think there's any question Nick deserves a share of that blame.
Sure. And he's involved.
Oh yeah.
It's once he became, we hired Kellen and he turned it over. He's involved in the offense. He's an offensive coach by trade. You think he's not having a hand in it?
Oh yeah.
Of course he has a hand in it. Dylan. While Saquon, despite the down year so far, is still probably the best back in the NFL, I'd love to see Will Shipley get a role. In my head, I can see him play a role like Kevin Falk or James White did for the Patriots during their early 2000s and mid to late 2010s dominance as a third down specialist who can also provide a nice change of pace running the ball. Would love to hear what you guys think about this comparison.
Yeah, I especially last week wish he had a role since he was my bold prediction that he would get in the end zone. I was wrong. I don't think he had a touch. He might have had one touch. I'm all for that. And it doesn't mean you don't believe in Saquon. It doesn't. I just think an offense is more effective when you have a little change of pace in there. And we've seen that, certainly with other backs, and whether it's, Boston Scott or, Correll Buckhalter over the years. I mean, we've seen that second back, even if he just gets like 4 carries or something. We even saw Sunday, I guess Saquon left the game for a snap or two, and A.J. Dillon had 3 for 17 maybe, and didn't play again or didn't get another carry. I really think there's value in that, especially if there's something stale in the offense. And Saquon had, I think the Rams game, didn't he have all the carries by running backs? Whether it's Shipley or Dillon, I'd like to see a little change of pace in there, especially when, like, it looks like Saquon's running into. I think if you're a defense and you get as good as Saquon is, if you just get a different body type, a different skill set, different guy coming at you a different way, different speed, different physicality, you just get something different. It just makes it harder to defend.
Yeah, I agree with that. What do you think happens with Shipley and Dillon? Shipley came back from the oblique injury. He had missed a few weeks, and Dillon was clearly ahead of him. Do you think it stays that way, or do you think we see Shipley start to wrestle that number 2 job back?
It's a great question. I'm not sure how to answer it. I think until Dillon does something to lose that job, it's just hard to tell because it's such a small sample size. Mm-hmm. I like Shipley. I think he gives you a little juice. But right now, Dillon's ahead of him.
Yeah, I think that's going to change.
I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Thomas, Dave and Rube, love the pod, have been a long-time listener.
Appreciate it.
The question I have is in regard to Ty Robinson. Heard a lot of talk about him during the preseason and saw some flashes during the preseason games, and he has been a ghost since then. Is he that buried on the depth chart?
Yeah, right now he is. It's just a reality.
Yeah, he's behind Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Mora Ojima, and Byron Young, who have all given them good snaps. He was even behind Gabe Hall, who isn't on the roster anymore because they weren't going to cut the 4th-round pick.
Yeah, Byron Young, he played 22 snaps Sunday.
He's been sneaky good for that.
Yeah, I think he's playing well. So he's ahead of Ty Robinson, and I get that. And he's played like 25% of the Eagles' defensive snaps. Yeah, exactly 25%.
Yeah, I think Ty has a chance to carve out a role, but it's not super easy to find where it's coming from because we know Vic likes to play his top guys a lot. It's a little disappointing because Ty is an older rookie, right, and we talked about that. Like, you're drafting him, he should be able to be in the rotation right away. I think it's just guys are ahead of him.
Yeah, and I think really it's Byron Young is like, because we knew the other 3 guys were going to be ahead of him. Byron Young's just been better, so he's going to play.
From Melissa. Hi, Dave and Rube. I'm happy that the Eagles have come out of the first month of the season 4-0,
but
they have played 4 good teams, even Dallas. Yuck. Looking ahead to week 5, is it more likely that this will be a trap game or a statement game? I'm concerned that coming off the Tampa game, they seem to have circled on their calendar they will overlook this 2-2 Broncos team.
When's the last time the Eagles overlooked a team?
That's why I included this question, because they've been so good. It's like the natural thing to say this is a trap game. They've been so good under Sirianni about not taking opponents lightly. You don't win 20 of 21 games if you do that.
Yeah, and even the one loss wasn't, that was a division opponent and the quarterback got hurt and it was on the road. So, and they had a big lead. So that certainly wasn't a trap game. So I can't even think of the last time there was even an appearance of that. I mean, at the end of 23, those weren't trap games. Those were just the team fell apart. Mm-hmm. So, I wouldn't worry about that. I think that's one thing Nick does really well. He gets these guys really prepared every week, and they don't look past anyone.
I think it's one of his strengths. It's like him being consistent and having the same message. I think that shows up in games where we would see some teams overlook opponents.
Yeah, I think of a trap game like, I guess you kind of have to be at home. When's the last time they lost a game at home? was it the game Saquon dropped the pass?
Is a trap game only at home?
Because unless you're facing a really bad team on the road,
okay,
I figure like
which happens, right?
it does happen. Like between
division
games
in a week.
So like the Atlanta game, but you're also coming back from Brazil. I don't see the Atlanta game as a trap. I can't even tell you the last trap game. Maybe in 22. I wouldn't worry.
Do you
about
discount the Giants being a trap game because they're division?
Yeah.
Okay. Just curious. Want to finish up with one more?
Yeah.
From Andrew, am I crazy for thinking Jalen Hunt has been a disappointment and noticeable weak spot in this defense? He's hilarious, has flash talent, and is still expectedly raw and improving, but I'm getting a little concerned because of multiple plays against LA and Tampa where I watched Jalen get washed away on off-tackle runs or raced on outside zone. Sweat had the sacks in Super Bowl, and we all worried about less pressure on the QB, but I think the biggest loss against the run was against the run, where it seems like Hunt is either a non-factor or worse, a liability. Interested on your thoughts on Jalex's year so far, and if you agree that he's struggled more than expected.
It's a fair question. We talked about this just before we started the pod. We were talking about Jalex, and I think he's been a disappointment. I think that's fair to say, coming off the way last year ended, and they were really high on him. And I don't think he's been terrible, but we haven't seen splash plays from him at all.
Yeah.
So
he did get credited for that forced fumble
right.
that him and Jihad kind of combined on against Bucky Irving.
Right. Sunday.
Yeah, you haven't seen like the big plays from him. He leads the team in pressures with 11. As far as the run game, like, yeah, I think
that's always going to be.
Yeah, and it's probably going to take him some time to really learn how to play that part of the position. Whereas like pass rush, he's so athletic, he's probably going to win there at times. And I think he has won at times. He hasn't gotten to the quarterback and sacked him yet, but we've seen some wins there. It's also fair to say, like, are the expectations too high for a guy who's a second-year player and we all knew was raw when they drafted him? Everyone was excited about him because he improved so much from the beginning of last year to the end of last year. Right. He's a starter now, and we watched him at camp, and he's playing great. I think it's fair the expectations were just too high for him.
That certainly could be. When you play the way he played for a Super Bowl champion in the postseason, you understand those expectations.
Sure.
So I think it's also fair to say he's been a little disappointing. I'm sorry I finished quickly there while you were drinking your coffee.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for that. If you have a question for us, eagleeye@nbcuni.com. Rube, which way are you leaning in this game?
Well,
we do this every week, and we just pick the Eagles because we'd be dumb not to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to pick them to lose. I may never pick them to lose again. I can't see any scenario where I pick them to lose a football game. They never lose. So I do think Denver has some strengths, and I think they're a little dangerous. But look, Eagles aren't going to lose to this. They're not going to lose to Bo Nix at home with the Broncos coming in on a short week.
Yeah, I don't think so. All right. If you enjoyed the podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, click the like button, subscribe there as well. Rube, you have any final thoughts?
Well, like, if you had to guess who their next loss would be, like, what would you, I mean, at Green Bay on a Monday, but they're coming off the bye, but that's a tough game. But Green Bay lost to the Browns. Detroit the next week on a short week but that's at home. That's a tough little stretch there.
At LA is tough.
At the Chargers, week 14.
Washington and Buffalo at the end of the season. We don't know what that's going to look like, but tough games.
At Buffalo, they're very good. They could both be undefeated going into that. They'll both be 15-0.
Only 2 undefeated teams left in the league.
It's crazy, isn't it? Through 4 games. Yeah, good. But yeah, if you had to guess, I mean, I would probably go Green Bay just because. But I don't think they're that. I think their quarterback kind of holds them back a little bit. I don't think he's elite. The Detroit game at home on my birthday, that's a Sunday night game.
Okay.
Detroit's very good.
Did you do all this so we could know when your birthday was?
No. I just noticed that. Be doing a podcast with you on my birthday. That'll be fun.
What a present.
I still have the party hat you brought me on my birthday like 6 years ago. in my cubicle. But yeah, I don't know what I'm going to pick against them, but it won't be anytime soon.
All right, we'll talk to you guys after the game on Sunday. Enjoy watching Eagles-Broncos. For Reuben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. This has been Eagle Eye, presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.